Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So today we got another buyer's guide and we're looking at Hikvision IP PoE systems. So if you're maybe an end user thinking about getting a Hikvision CCTV system, or you've been given a quote and you want to know a little bit more, this is a great video for you to watch. Or if you're an installer and you're not too familiar with the Hikvision range and just got into Hikvision maybe, or just got into installing, then this is another good video for you to know what kind of products people are going for and what's popular right now. So in this video we'll be touching on the different options you're going to have, everything from cables, NVRs, cameras, bases, any other accessories you might need. So this video is really designed for, you know, domestic use, small shops, businesses, offices, nothing major like a car park or a farm or something like that. There are different options for that, but this video is not really designed for that. So if you did need some of those options, then please talk to an installer and they'll probably be able to recommend something that is suitable for the job. So what's coming up in this video? Okay, we're going to be going over why should you choose Hikvision in the first place. You maybe never heard of them before. We're going to quickly touch on that, and then go over why should you go for an IP system over an analog system, which I've done a buyer's guide for as well if you're interested in that. So then we're going to go over a couple of different cable choices you might have for an IP system. It's really easy to choose. And then we're going to choose our NVR, and then we're going to go over all the different camera options you might have. So there are a lot of Hikvision IP cameras, so I've tried to really choose a nice good selection for you guys to have a look at. And then we're going to go over what accessories you might need, like bases and things like that, and then I'm going to quickly give you some final recommendations to hopefully make your choice of cameras and system a lot easier. So if you are a tradesman, an installer, and you are interested in buying some products, then link below to our website. You can open up a trade account or just give us a call and we'll be happy to help you out. So enjoy the video and catch you guys in a sec. Thanks. Okay, so why choose a Hikvision CCTV system? Okay, this is a good question, and we're going to briefly touch on this and then start getting into more of the equipment that we'll be using, or you'll be using, I should say. So the pros of a Hikvision CCTV system are not only are they the leading manufacturer and supplier of CCTV and surveillance equipment in the world, they're known, especially in IP PoE, to have really top-notch picture quality. And I don't know if you've heard about the factory they have there, but they have a really impressive factory, and they have a high build quality there, and the cameras are rarely ever faulty. Okay, so they're also known for in the market for having really top quality night vision. Now they've always been the leading researchers and developers of night vision, and they are really on the money right now, especially with the latest color view and dark fighter cameras that we're going to be talking about later. So when you have set up your CCTV, most people have the app on their phone, so it has a really good app, Hit Connect, and once you have your CCTV system set up, there are no ongoing fees at all. You get the app is essentially free once you've got your system. Okay, and now the latest cameras and NVRs has AccuSense. So when you have your app out and you want to get notifications, you're not going to get false ones just by a cat coming by or the wind blowing, something like that. Okay, you can set it to human and vehicle recognition, and this is a new feature and it's proving very popular. And especially in the range of products they have, especially in IP, we're going to touch on as many as we can in this video, but they just go on and on and on. So this video is really going to be designed for, you know, domestic applications, small shops, offices, things like that. Okay, so you'll see what's coming up. Quite a bit I've got planned. Okay, and another good thing about Hikvision is they do intercoms, alarms, access control, all this stuff. And if you were to get an intercom and alarm system, it is possible to get it all on the same app. So you can even have an internal screen if you have an intercom with it all linked up on there. Okay. So a couple of the bad points about Hikvision is compared to some of the competitors in the market, even though their build quality and picture quality is far superior, the prices obviously can be on their high end. Okay, some of the 4 megapixel cameras are, I reckon, a really good value, but the 8 megapixel, you know, they do go up quite a bit from when you go 4 to 8. And if you do have larger systems and really high-end cameras, you will need to get a good PC if that's something you'll be looking into. But most people use an app or a tablet. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Okay, so I'm going to quickly touch on the two different types of CCTV systems there are on the market right now, and these are common across all the CCTV world. There's analog, which uses BNC, and there's IP PoE, which uses RJ45 connections. Okay, just like your internet router would use. Okay, so the main thing you should know, though, if you're watching this video and you don't know, IP PoE, the main difference is IP PoE is more expensive. Okay, so just think about it that way. 2 to 3 times more on a camera. You're going to pay a little bit more for a recorder, but the recorders, there's not much in it. So if you are getting lots of cameras and budget is an issue, you might want to go analog. But if you're just going for a 4-camera system, maybe for home, then and you want to spend a little bit extra to get something good, then definitely go for IP PoE. Okay, just remember that is the main reason. It generally is far superior in many ways, but we're going to quickly touch on the good and bad points of each one. So analog system, okay, I have made a video on the buying guide on analog systems. So if your budget is too much if you get a quote for an IP PoE system, then do check it out, because yeah, they are cheaper than IP. You do have more universal cables you can use, so you might have your old cables installed and you might want to utilize them, so analog could be your option. And it is pretty easy to set up. The cameras all go back to the DVR and they all come up automatically, nice and easy. And analog cameras are smaller cameras, so if size was an issue, I know most people think bigger is better, but some people might like smaller cameras for the house, then analog is also a good option. And if you did want to get some IP cameras, like especially with something with a 2-way audio, then go analog. You can always add a camera in via a switch. I'll leave a link below on how to do that. But it's really easy nowadays to add IP cameras to DVRs and have you utilize the features you want. Okay, so the bad points of an analog system are all the cables have to run back to the back of the DVR. So with an IP system, for example, you could have a switch on one side of the house with 5 cameras connected to it, and then run one cable from the switch to your NVR. Okay, so that will save you running 5 cables from that side of the house. But with an analog system, they all have to go to the back of the DVR. It's not really much of a problem for most people. Okay, but analog systems, they can get possible interference or power issues. So if you're one of these guys who loves it when you get, everything is reliable, high end, and something's going to 100% work, then PoE is the way for you. Okay, and especially if you like the high end stuff, analog is it can handle it, but not as good as IP. IP is much smoother, much higher frame rates. Everything is in a higher, better quality, especially for the recording for an IP PoE system. So as we'll touch on now, the pros, very high picture quality. Okay, I'm going to talk about probably more about this later, so we'll move on to that. And the features, well, like I said, I'm going to be talking a lot about the features. You've got 2-way audio, you have all kinds of things really, like mini PTZs nowadays, warning cameras, live guard, all of this stuff. And because it's digital, you're going to get no interference. And like I said, you've got the cable install versatility, means you can utilize the switches and networks, and it does use a nice thin Cat5 or Cat6 cable. But like I said earlier, IP PoE can be expensive, especially if you're going for 8 megapixel, and some of the 8 megapixel cameras are quite large. And for larger systems, it is going to be a little bit complicated to set up. I mean, it's not too bad, but if you have a company to do it, that's great, and then go for that. But if you're doing a home system, try to keep it as simple as possible, and you shouldn't have any problems. And obviously, with an IP PoE system, you can't use analog cameras; they have to be all IP cameras. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we're going to quickly touch on your cable options you have for an IP PoE system. There's just a couple of main rules. Basically, is that there's not a lot of difference for a CCTV system if you're going for Cat5 or Cat6. It really does not matter, or even Cat7 for that fact. The main rule is just get yourself good quality cable. We recommend to use solid copper cable, not CCA, copper cloud alloy, because that's basically just cheap fake cable. So stick with your solid copper, it's going to last you a long time. So we recommend don't cheap out on the cable. And the main differences between Cat 5 and Cat 6 are Cat 5 is a little bit cheaper than Cat 6, less copper in it. The cable can go up to 100 megabytes per second. So if you take a 4K camera, it can go maximum about 15 megabytes. I mean, you can figure out how many cameras you can run on one cable, a lot. So bandwidth is more than enough, and easily you can go up to 100 meters with no problems for most cameras. It can go more, but we recommend talking to your installer about the different options you can have about extending your length of run. So Cat 6 is obviously more expensive, especially with the current rises in raw materials, and this can go up to 10,000 megabytes per second, but after 50 meters it drops down to 1,000, the same as Cat 5e. So like I said, most people I recommend just go for the Cat 5, but if you're happy to spend a little bit extra, go for the Cat 6 by all means. And especially if you're doing longer runs, maybe you might want to go for the Cat 6, just because it helps with the power and things like that. Okay, so that's quickly touched on the cable, and move on to the next bit. Just remember though, solid copper, always the best. Okay, so this is where things get a bit more interesting. Now we're going to be looking at your NVRs, or network video recorders, for your IP PoE CCTV system. So just a word of note, all the ones we'll be going over, if it's a 16 channel or 4 channel, that means they have 4 ports at the back, all PoE, that means you can run 4 cameras to the back. Okay, there are non-PoE versions of NVRs, but just for this video we're touching on PoE only, which is definitely what most people do go for. Okay, so with there's 2 choices in the series. We have the K series and we've got the I series. Okay, so the K series is your standard basic series. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's generally for people who want good quality CCTV video, but they're not into all this techie kind of stuff. They just want to have normal CCTV, check it when something happens, and they want to make sure it's good quality. Then nothing wrong with the K series, absolutely great. So you can go up to 8 megapixel on here, and it's the same basically with the I series we're going to talk about. If you've got the latest 8 megapixel cameras, it does not make a difference what recorder you go for in terms of picture quality. And they both have 4K HDMI output, so you can watch your 4K 8 megapixel cameras in glorious 4K on your telly. So the K series, yeah, it's just no bells and whistles basically. So what the difference is between the I series is there are some 12 megapixel cameras on the market. They're very, very expensive and definitely not suitable for most situations, but it can go up to 12 megapixel. Okay, also has the 4K output. But what they've added to the I series recently is AccuSense. So AccuSense is basically smart analytics. It can do a whole host of things. But for the I series, what it can do is it can take a non-AccuSense camera and essentially AccuSense it. So the AccuSense will come from the NVR, and then it can use that smart analytics to apply it to a non-AccuSense camera, which is great for the older cameras. Okay, so it's something you might want to consider if you are replacing an older system. And it also comes with lots of options for facial comparison and things like that. You have a database. You could put in a white list, a black list of all the faces you want, for people you do and don't want in. And it has a ton of smart features, this NVR. I've been using it recently, and it just goes on and on how many things there are there. So if you want the latest tech, high end, the I series definitely for you. Okay, especially if you want to add high-end cameras like ANPR cameras, automatic number plate recognition cameras, things like that. I series 100% the way to go. Okay, so you have a choice of 4, 8, 16 channel in this video we're just going to be touching on, but they do go up to 128 channels for the NVRs. Okay, so one day I might get around to doing another buying guide for bigger properties, things like that, but the options are so much different when you go to those kind of situations. We're just going to be talking about most domestic situations right now. So for a 4-channel, you really only have one option, and that is the K series. So if you are only planning 4 cameras and you just want it for basic CCTV, then yeah, that's the model for you. Okay, there is one other version of a 4-channel that's non-PoE. If you want to run a switch, then go for that one. But that is the only option. I don't think they're ever going to bring out an I series and 4-channel. So an 8-channel, we've got 2 choices for the K series. We've got the K1 essentially and the K2. So K1 can hold 1 hard drive, K2 can hold 2 hard drives. Also, I know the K1 is a bit more cheaper as well if you are looking for a cheaper option for 8-channel. And in the I series, we have the latest AccuSense i2 NVR. Okay, so it's got loads of features on here, and now leads us onto the 16-channel, and we got one option for the NVR for 16-channel. It's a K2, so it can hold 2 hard drives. And in the I series, we have the i2 and the i4. So obviously they've got AccuSense as well, all the latest features, and you've got the 2 hard drive and 4 hard drive options available. Okay, so when you're choosing your hard drive, this is how much a 1 terabyte hard drive will give you if you're running 4 cameras. So you can obviously do the maths and figure out, you know, if you're going for 2 terabyte, that's going to give you 20 days, for example, on 4 cameras. Okay, or 4 terabyte, just multiply the days by 4. Okay, and make sure you definitely 100% go for a surveillance grade hard drive. Okay, so the top brands at the moment are Seagate, Skyhawk Surveillance, and WD Purple. This is what we sell, and we rarely have any problems with them. We're on the cameras now. This is where things get a bit more interesting, also a bit more varied. There's lots of different types of IP cameras, specialty cameras especially. Okay, but for most people looking for just your standard type of camera, these are the options for you. Alright, so you've got a traditional bullet size, comes in large, medium and small. But what's popular with most customers is the turret housing. And if you wanted to go for the latest AMP color view with all the bells and whistles, you know, live guard, 2-way audio, then you are looking at the large turret. But if you're looking at, you want something a bit more discreet, then we have the medium turret, and also great for indoor use is the Vandal Dome. So please note that obviously these glass bubble lenses on the Vandal Dome, even though very hard to break, any dirt that gets on the inside, and whenever it rains or the sun shines, you are going to get a lot of problems for outdoor. So recommended for internal use only. So there's your housing options. Now we'll talk a bit more about the camera features, especially the night vision and megapixel choices you have. So main choice is 4 megapixel or 8 megapixel, and this is your typical kind of scenario. I mean, it used to be 2 megapixel was entry level, but now for like a couple of quid more you can get 4 megapixel. So we stick with the 4 as entry level now, and even though they do go up to 12 megapixels, some cameras, you're looking at 3,000 to 4,000 for some of them. So 8 megapixel right now is the sweet spot for the high-end fixed lens camera. Okay, so yeah, generally better. AMP is generally better all the way around. Okay, you know, bigger is better on this situation, but you do lose a little bit on frame rates. But when it comes to IP, the frame rates are so high anyway that yeah, you know, this is not something you really have to worry about. If you want to go AMP, go ahead, get the better quality. You get more digital zoom and a bigger picture. So lots of customers are happy with the quality and the size of the picture of the 8 megapixel. But 4 megapixel is still excellent. Okay, so I don't think, you know, 8 is better. No, it's still very good for most situations. 4 megapixel. Another problem with the 8 is it will eat up more hard drive space. So if you do need long recording, it's something you take into consideration, then definitely you want to go for the lower megapixel cameras. So, but especially for indoor, you know, indoor 4 megapixel is more than enough. All right. But what the choices come down to basically is price. So if you want to pay the extra, go for the 8 meg. But the main choice you'll have is choosing the night vision. So night vision is really important to choose nowadays. You really have 2 choices when it comes to IP. You have dark fighter and you've got color view. So what are the differences between both of the night visions? Okay, so the pros of the Darkfighter is there's no visible white light that shows. Okay, it's your traditional infrared light. The camera might have a little red light on the camera just to let you know it's a night vision mode. And it has a low light sensor, Darkfighters, so they're really good. So if you're anywhere where there's good street lighting, any kind of flood lighting lights, then you're going to get a color picture just like color view. Okay, but if it is too dark, then it will kick into the night vision. And you do pay a little bit less than the color view. You're about 10% cheaper on the cameras roughly, so there's not much in it. But if you are looking for long range options, then definitely stick with the Nightfighter. I know some cameras, especially the PTZs, can go up to 100, 200 meters for night vision. Okay, so obviously if it's too dark, you're not going to get a color picture. But with the Darkfighter sensors, you're still going to be a very clear black and white picture. And if it does trigger the infrared, you will not be able to read license plates because they will just reflect. Okay, so this is the same with all traditional CCTV. Okay, nothing special about the Darkfighter there. Okay, color view obviously gives you that 24/7 color picture. That little white light shines on when it gets dark and make sure everything's a nice color. It's great for anything close up to the camera. It's going to give you a really nice, clear, vivid color picture, and you can even read license plates. So if you did want a proper solution, definitely look for an ANPR camera. But if you want to just be able to read them, and you're not so bothered, you just want to check it, maybe cars outside your house, then definitely going for the 8 megapixel color view. You should be able to read license plates, up to about 10 to 12 meters from where the camera is placed. Okay, and with the color view, it doesn't have it on the Darkfighter. Even though the Darkfighter does have two-way audio, the color view really takes advantage of this and uses the live guard deterrence feature. So this is something I'll be talking about in a second, so we'll come back to that in a minute. The problems with color view are visible white light. Okay, so I'll put it in the cons section, but some people like this, having a white light shining around, letting people know you got cameras. Okay, and yeah, the white light unfortunately cannot travel that as far as the infrared, so great for home systems, but not great for long range car parks, things like that. And we don't really recommend color view for indoors. I mean, you're paying for that color night vision to come on, but when someone comes in the house, they're going to turn on the lights, so it's pretty unnecessary going for color view. We always recommend color view for outdoor, stick with the Darkfighters for indoor. All right, so this is an example of color view in action compared to a conventional camera. You got IR basically versus just normal white light. Okay, and I touched on earlier the live guard. So the latest color view cameras with two-way audio have the live guard feature. So essentially what live guard is, it can make your camera an alarm system all in one. So it can detect, it can warn, it can do everything. Okay, so it's using the great combination of color view and AccuSense together to give you a really good camera option here. So I'm actually making one of my next videos is going to be on the live guard. So if it's something you're interested in, then check back in a few weeks. It should be done. But you got some really great options like activating the alarm from your app, having custom audible warnings, loads of things. All right, so it's a great option here, especially if you've got problems with kids or people like loitering around and you want to be able to scare them off. Great option. Okay, so now we're on to some of the speciality cameras. All right, so I mean this list can go on and on and on. So I'm just going to try and round it down to a few different options, just in case you're looking for something a little bit different. So I touched on it earlier, two-way audio. So it has most cameras nowadays, IP cameras have a microphone built in. They all have this microphone. Okay, it's nothing special, but having the speaker, you're looking at about £10 option extra for a speaker option. And then you can talk through the app and you can set up custom audible warnings. So it's a very popular option at the moment, the two-way audio. Okay, so you also got varifocal cameras. So these are also known as zoom cameras. They have optical zoom, but they only go forwards and backwards, so they are limited in practical applications. So for example, you might have a shed at the back of the garden, a long garden, and you want to keep a nice close eye on that. Yeah, that's something you might be able to use it for. but there's not too many situations where you're going to want to go varifocal, and they can be on the expensive end. So PTZ cameras, or pan tilt zoom cameras, I will be talking about them more in a minute, so I'll quickly touch on them now. They have very powerful zooms, great for long range night vision, auto tracking. Some of them now you just set them, forget them, and they will just zoom around looking for action. And even the new mini PTZ is out now, so I'm going to talk about that. But most of the PTZs are really not suitable for domestic applications. There are a couple I'm going to talk about which you can use at home, but most of the bigger ones you're going to really be needed for bigger situations, car parks, big office buildings, things like that. And if you did want a solution to number plates, then go for an ANPR camera. They are very expensive and they only record the license plates, but they are a good option to have if this is something you really need. Okay, so it will store license plates on the recorder. You can download lists of the license plates every day, for example. You have to have the I series NVR though, so we did touch on that earlier, so it's a must have, that NVR. And like I said, they are expensive and they only read the license plate, so you're going to have to get an additional camera to see actually who's in the car, what kind of car it is, you know, the color of the car, all that stuff. Okay, a few more cameras of note. So a Q camera, this is essentially an indoor camera, a bit like a baby cam. You've got two-way audio, easy to install, you usually have Wi-Fi options for this one, so a nice camera for indoors if something you're interested in. Okay, something for shops maybe. You've got people counting cameras, so obviously it does what it says on the tin, counts how many people coming in and out. Nice little option there, and they're relatively not that expensive. Okay, so you're looking about twice the price of an AMP camera. Okay, it might be somewhat expensive for some people, but if you've got a shop and you want that data, then that's the way to go. So there's also something called panel view cameras, or 180-degree cameras. I mean, there's two different things I've merged into here. So essentially they give you a nice big wide 180-degree picture, and this is a picture of the latest color view. So I've only just heard from Hikvision, it's coming out in a few weeks, so I just thought I'd put a nice picture of that there now. So we've got color view and pano view coming out soon. And another option for shops and things like that, these go generally on a ceiling, and they give you a weird kind of 360 kind of look down on the view of the room, and they're called fisheye cameras. So it's something that some shops like, some people like them, some people hate them. It's really, the choice is yours. Moving on to the next bit. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go over a few different options of PTZ or pan tilt zoom cameras you might be thinking of for your home, business or shop. Okay, so this is an internal PTZ. This is great for, you know, the center of an office or a shop. It's up to 4 megapixel, so it's really good quality, more than enough for indoor use. It can even attach it for the Wi-Fi. It has a 4x zoom, so that's a 2.8 to 12mm lens. Usually good enough for most indoor situations. Not dark fighter night vision. Has audio mic built in, so it's going to be listening, but this is only for indoor use only. Okay, so great, like I said, great option for a shop or an office. Put it right in the middle of the room, ceiling mount it, and you can zoom around and pan and tilt and look around, no problems. Okay, so this is the mini PTZ. So this is pretty new on the market, and these are great for outdoor use for a home situation, because they're relatively small size for a PTZ. It's got great features like two-way audio, and automatic audible warnings, and you've got the AccuSense as well, so you're going to reduce the false notifications. So we've got two different types here. One's color view and one is dark fighter. The only difference is with the color view is you do not have the digital zoom, the optical zoom, sorry. So that is essentially a PT camera, pan and tilt only, no zoom. Okay, so that's the color view one. It has a 4mm fixed lens instead of the zoom. Well, we've got the dark fighter model here, and it has a 2.8 to 12mm 4x optical zoom lens. So these cameras are great to put at the front of the house, back of a house, maybe a small car park. You want to be able to zoom around, you know, from your app, from your NVR, have a look around, and it's got the two-way audio, so that's a great option there. But if you are looking for a serious option for a PTZ camera, then this is a very popular model amongst our installers. Okay, so these are quite large cameras, but they also can be expensive. But I mean, all these kind of larger PTZ cameras, they are expensive, no matter what kind of brand you go for, and they are competitively priced. So I think the value you're getting for the quality is very good. So they go up to 4 meg. This one's up to 4 megapixel. But when you're looking at a PTZ, I wouldn't go by the megapixel as, you know, oh, I want a high megapixel PTZ. It really doesn't work that way. It's actually some of the lower megapixel PTZs are going to give you that really crystal clear picture when you're zoomed in, and that's the important part, the zoom. So this one has got a 25 times optical zoom, and when you're zoomed in there, it really doesn't matter the quality or the megapixel. You're going to see everything crystal clear. I mean, you can see things from really far away, and some of the zooms go crazy on these cameras. Okay, I mean, the range of PTZ cameras are really phenomenal. Okay, and this one's really popular amongst our installers because it's got the auto tracking feature. So you can just literally go to your motion detection, draw a box. That's your box, so it's going to detect for people going in there, and then once it's found a person or vehicle, it will follow them. So really easy to set up. Just set it and forget it is what I say, and it's going to be giving you some really good footage. Okay, and the good thing about these ones are that you do have different mounting options. So they can go on any flat surface. I haven't written in the list here, but they can be ceiling mounted as well. But most people will go for a wall mounting, just any flat wall, or in the corner of a building, or even on a pole. Okay, so very versatile for installation. All right, so that covers all the cameras. Well, a few of the cameras in the Hikvision range, and we'll move into to what else you might need and any other bits and bobs. Catch you there. Okay, so one important thing to consider when getting a CCTV system is how are you going to waterproof the connection between the camera and the cable. So this is something that, you know, if you're just paying an installer, let him worry about this. But if you're buying the equipment, obviously, you might want to think about your options. So a popular option, especially if you're spending a lot of money on the cameras and they're going outdoor, is to go for a nice flush metal junction base. Okay, it's about 1-inch thick base the camera sits on. You hide your cables in there, they're nice and waterproof, nice and tight. You got 2 holes, one at the bottom, one at the back of the base to run the cables through. So you got all the options there. Very popular choice in IP. If you wanted to wall mount your camera and essentially have your camera, you know, hanging from underneath the bracket, wall mount options are very popular, especially in large properties, large businesses. But if you did want to just go for a cheaper option, then just a normal plastic electrical junction box will do the job. Okay, so I'll give you a quick couple of examples of bases. So this is an IP camera with a base. It just sits on there nicely. You hardly even know there's a base there. Okay, it just extends the camera out a little bit. All right, so these are the wall mounts. Okay, these are not actually IP cameras, but essentially it's the same thing with the IP cameras and the analog ones. And just an example of a junction box. Okay, so a few other things you might want to consider when buying a IP PoE system is a power line adapter. So this allows you to run your NVR, say, from your loft, hide it away up there, and then run one of these adapters downstairs to your router, and then you'll be able to go online and have your NVR hidden away. That's providing all the power in your loft is on the same grid as your home, which most people it would be. Okay, so nice little option there for hiding your DVR away. Also, obviously, you might want to consider getting for a monitor, but nowadays, you know, if you consider yourself a bit of a techie, you can set it up through a PC. But any monitor will do. VGA, HDMI, smart tellies, non-smart tellies. I mean, if you want a cheap option out there, there's definitely options. But if you can go up to, if you want to go for a nice 4K display, then go ahead. Perfect. Okay, so another option is you might want to hide your NVR away and put it in a nice safe lockbox just in case you were broken into. You don't want the thieves getting to your hard drive to get all that valuable data. So definitely think about getting a lockbox, especially for a business. And if you are thinking about getting something like an intercom or alarm system as well, then they can all be integrated together if you get them all from Hikvision. Okay, so intercoms now getting very popular, very similar to Ring doorbell, but without the fees. and we'll be doing a video on that very soon. That's already actually been started, so I'm going to do a nice little intercom buyer's guide, and maybe one day I'll get around to doing an alarm buyer's guide as well. But alarm systems are pretty much standardized, so it's something you might want to consider, that intercom alarm system. So now I'm going to give you our final recommendations, give you a couple of model numbers you might want to muse over while thinking about buying your CCTV system. Catch you there. So I hope you guys now have a better idea about what kind of PoE system you might be going for or be able to recommend to a customer. But just to finish off, we're going to give you our final recommendations, and just to give you a couple more model numbers and ideas about what you might want to get when thinking about getting your system. So the NVR we recommend is definitely the new i-series NVR with AccuSense. So this is full of features. It can handle all the complicated cameras. A really good option, especially if you're into, you know, motion detection, facial detection, these kind of things. You're going to use the NVR, then definitely go for the i-series. You know, like I said, if you're on a budget but you still want to go IP, then there's nothing wrong with the K series. So most customers are happy with that. But if you are going to be using it a lot, then definitely go for the i-series. And we recommend here WD Purple surveillance hard drives to go along with our Hikvision NVR. Okay, so let's move on to our cameras. So we've got 4 cameras here we recommend. So we've got kind of an entry level dark fighter, an entry level color view at 4 megapixel, and we have the same equivalent in 8 megapixel or similar equivalent. So basically our nice little entry level 4 megapixel camera is in the mini turret housing or the medium turret housing, and it has AccuSense as well. All these cameras have AccuSense, so the G2 range. So it's a very popular one for all-round use, good for outdoor, indoor, for homes and businesses. So if you wanted a good entry-level color view, 4 megapixel, we've been selling these a long time, being a very, very, very popular camera. And you can get it in 2-way audio, 1-way audio. I've put the 2-way audio here because you'll be looking at about £10 to £15 more for the 2-way audio option. So I think it's well worth it. And 8 megapixel, we have it only comes in the large turret housing, but you can get bullet options as well. And we have both have 2-way audio here, and the color view will have the live guard features. So if you want to basically a camera with an alarm all in one, then definitely go for the color views you see in the picture here with the live guard. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the video. Now you got a few things to consider when purchasing your system, and we will be doing a nice one on intercom soon. And remember, we've got a BNC analog system buyer's guide as well, if you think that, you know, you might prefer to go for that. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and catch you in the next one. Cheers, bye.